this is specifically obviously for Bassem, but Sam as well. You know, I think there's a lot of the right loves to talk about cancel culture. You can't say anything, blah blah, tone policing, woke police, blah blah blah. Trump, meanwhile, we just found out was looking into how he could sick the DOJ or the FCC on SNL. Just pathetic shit. Trying to clamp down on anyone making fun of him. I mean, we all agree that Alec Baldwin should be arrested for a terrible impression of Trump. That is, I think, bipartisan. But I wanted to ask you, Bassem, about what it is like doing comedy under a dictatorship and when authoritarianism comes to power. You know, Trump and LCC were friends. He was probably studying your case. He was like, if we can just get SNL off the air.
Well, here's the thing. The whole thing about satire and irony, that it's subversive. And conservatives, by default, cannot be subversive. Because it's about making fun of taboos, about establishments, about the thing that we hold dear and holy. And the conservatives, they hold to these. So they cannot. So what happens is that their satire is misogynist, is racist, is anti-minority, and it's just like they're terrible. I mean, if you watch the so-called comedy show on Fox News, which is like it's so cringy. But for example, one of the like the very few comedic actors that came from with a right-wing mentality is Kelsey Grammer, Frasier, right? He's great. I mean, he's one of I love him. I loved Frasier, one of my favorite shows. But then they tried their hand on a Naked Gun kind of satire when they did a movie called An American Carol. And I'm sure that even if you don't remember that movie, it's fine because it was it was 12% on Rotten Tomatoes. So it's a terrible movie. 4.1 out of 10 from IMDb, and they were basically doing like a kind of a Naked Gun parody on Roger Moore, what's his name, Michael Moore kind of movies, and it was the most terrible satirical movie you can ever see. It was terrible, and it's full of like all of these terrible stereotypes about Arabs and Muslims and women and liberals. It's just like rude. Their comedy is
Kelsey
rude.
Grammer was in this movie? I feel like we have to get high and watch it.
No. Yeah. Kelsey Grammer was on it. He was the guy who's starring American Carol. It was just like one of the most terrible right-wing kind of satire. You have to watch it as a case study, and it just like they don't get the satire in the same way that the left wing, because for them it's just like insulting. And and when they do satire, they do it in a way. I mean, you have like the article that you shared with us, which is a comparison between The Onion and the Babylon Bee. The Babylon Bee, I didn't know that there was like it was a conservative right-wing satirical site until I actually researched it, because I found my right-wing friend sharing their articles as real news.
Yes.
And it's kind of like the way that they feed into the narrative of their conspiracy theories. The Onion is just like clear-cut, very, very intelligent satire, and it shows. Yeah. But the way that they do it is just like it's a way to feed into the misinformation and the conspiracy theories. And so the short answer is the right wing suck at satire. I had it because I had Islamists and right-wing pro-military characters trying to do satire against me, and they were like terrible. They were like terrible. It was like so unfunny, and it's only funny for their own followers. And the reason why their followers like that kind of satire is for them it's a way to insult the other. It's more of insulting comedy. It's not intelligent. It's just like raw and just like in your face, on the nose. Terrible.
Well, and it's the victim complex right now that the right has, which is they see like, you know, Black Lives Matter as the establishment, as if it were the establishment. So their satire is like, well, since we can't say, you know, I don't know, the N-word, or we can't make fun of women, or we have to ask for consent, that suddenly becomes our like oppression, and we're fighting against that. Therefore, we can do satire.
So first of all, the whole thing about cancel culture is bullshit. Yes. Because no one will come at you and put you in jail because like some sort of a politically incorrect joke you did. You just say whatever you
wrong.
want and just have to bear the consequences. There are like, and which is like social pressure, whatever. But nobody is coming to you and putting you to jail because you said like a bad taste joke. This is terrible. The whole cancel culture is just like
The
crazy.
worst that happens is that nobody laughs, and we've all seen comics like say a racist or messed up joke, and no one laughs, and they're like, "You're just woke," and you're like, "Okay, buddy."
And when you are canceled by a TV show or whatever, you are canceled by private corporations. You're canceled by private businesses that they see that it's in their own interest not to have you anymore because of what you said. But the government is not canceling you. The police is not canceling you. The law is not canceling you. This is just like social interaction. If you don't like it, you can go to Fox News and say whatever, like politically incorrect, and they will welcome you, and they will even pay you a lot of money for your poorly constructed jokes. But other than that, there's the whole cancel culture thing is just stupid.
Greg Gutfeld does a here on that. But yeah, I think Bassem's right. The fact is that the right really doesn't do satire. Satire is supposed to expose structural aspects of our society, and like Bassem says, they're just insult comedians. But they also, part of the reason why it's just simply not funny is they have to spend so much time creating the straw man and the structure to attack, and it's really read thin. There was a show that they did to compete with Saturday Night Live like 15 years ago. I don't know if you can see it's clips of it on online. Fox did, and it was like opened up with Rush Limbaugh, and he came out and delivered what was, I guess, sort of like a cold opening, and he brought in his vice president. He's brought in his vice president, who is Ann Coulter, and it was just a series of it is so bad because they're having to sell the existence of a structure that nobody else recognizes. That then they're sort of critiquing it. It really is the closest I can, back in my comedy days, I did a couple of industrials with a comedy troupe. And you found that like the stuff that really played was when they said like, here, do these jokes about the R&D department and make sure that you talk about how Angie never lets her paper clips lent out. And you say that in front of the crowd and they go wild. Anything else, they don't.
Corporate gigs.
Right. Yeah. And it's all just sort of like their entire sort of comedic genre is that. And you can see it. I mean, I don't know if Gutfeld's show is still on, but
it's still on.
It's it's one of the highest rated shows on Fox News, because I think it's for the 65 and above.
Holy shit! Wow,
I sadly don't have a clip. But
can I tell you something? For the first week where Gutfeld premiered, Fox News was all over the place celebrating Gutfeld is having one of the highest rated shows on television, like, period. And because like people who watch Fox News are just still the people who watch television, which is like 65 and above. So yeah, makes sense.
Yep, that's amazing.
I couldn't find I mean, they're all terrible clips, but I didn't actually pull one. I didn't have time, but we've all seen how terrible Gutfeld is. And I'm just like, yo, I know a lot of comedians who would probably take that job writing for you. Like, I know people write for Bill Maher. It's not Gutfeld, but like, there's some bad jokes in there. It's cringy. He's cringy. Just hire writers, hire better writers. They're out there. They'll work. We're broke as hell.
It doesn't matter it doesn't matter if you hire better writers. It's a mindset. It's the mindset. If you get the best writer in the world, it's like, okay, it's conservatism and satire. It doesn't work.
Let's just look at some Babylon Bee headlines, because I feel like you're not giving them credit. So here's one: George Washington to be replaced on Mount Rushmore by George Floyd.
Here it is. So this is like they are insulting a dead man, like a guy that was killed on camera. Where is the satire in this? All right.
Because they're both named George.
Yeah.
Biden Psaki to go door to door on bikes, asking if you have a moment to talk about getting vaccinated. There's making fun of the fact that they're
joke in that. Like I mean, There's no attempt at a joke. Where does the punchline? There's no attempt at a joke in either one of those.
The Photoshop job, though, Sam. Look.
The Photoshop job is sort of funny.
It works. I mean, they have the money to buy Adobe, but other than that, it's just.
Okay, what about this? House votes to replace all Confederate statues with statues of Chairman Mao. That just sounds like cool.
But I understand why is this funny for the right. I understand, because like we would rather to have a racist leader in the Civil War who enslaved black people other than we have a communist. Yes, I see that. I see the joke.
I'm glad you could see. This one I literally don't understand. AOC donates casket she was buried in after being killed on January 6th to Smithsonian.
That joke is that she has been really overly dramatic and has claimed, about what happened on January 6th.
Yeah,
Right.
because God forbid if you keep like if you don't talk about like how people were like inches away from coming in and threatening to kill you. Yeah.
But I'm not even offended by their dumb talking point. It's just that it's so not funny. It is just like, and those
aren't
funny.
even punching down. They have other ones that are like all like, oh, why women make great soldiers, and it's like, they can only do 5 push-ups and make you look strong.
I'm not offended by the point they're trying to make with that, and that's what makes it unfunny. It's unfunny, distinct from period. It's just like it is honestly like there's nothing less funny than unfunniness that thinks it's funny. It's just what a horror show. Honestly, that is. It's impressive that goes out the door and they're like, good one, nailed it. We nailed it with this.
I mean, I feel like they also might be getting paid for word because there are way too many words in this headline, in which case, like, I'm like, I respect the hustle.
Guys, these are the same people that would, if they see like a blackface sketch, they would think it's funny. This is the kind of audience that they cater to.
Yes, and that to me is why I think I was also not only a trip abroad. Every conservative, every American needs, but everyone needs a lesson in irony. Like, what is irony? What is sarcasm? Like, let's like listen for tones. Like, wow, you look great. Like, okay, was that sarcastic or not? You can go out into the world. Like, this should be a lesson in senior year in high school when you do like, sex ed, back-to-back sex ed and government and civics. And you're like, what? And then irony class. That's what I think. And then I think we would create better citizens if we just did that, because literally people thought Colbert Report was like a real show. Yeah. And then you've got liberals who are like, oh my God, it's Stephen Colbert's fault that Trump got elected. You're like, no, it's not hearing tones.
Yeah, it's ironic that the right has any kind of satire. That's the irony.
I will say Donald Trump at times can be funny. I mean, legitimately funny. But I think it's just because he's I think I can't think of a time off the top of my head, but he is pretty good at insulting people, and
he's an insult comic.
Yeah, honestly,
he's an insult comic. He's a hack comic. From
very early on, he just struck me as a road comic. I mean, and basically uses the same technique. And look, you go out and you do during the campaign, you do 200 nights a year, 300 nights a year. You're going to get pretty good.
Yes.
If you got any like inkling of like showmanship, you're going to figure out the lines that work. You keep repeating them. You already have an audience that is completely, yours as you walk in the room. And so
he should have just been a stand-up. Hitler should have been an artist as George W. Bush. Maybe he could have just been a stand-up. Bassem, we would have toured with him. It would have been funny-ish. It could have been great.
You guys come in my bus.
Hey, thanks so much for watching the Bitchuation Room podcast live stream. And while you're here, why don't you just subscribe to this channel? I promise it'll be good.